Heritage. We come from Cuba. Both sides of family are full Cuban. Havana, Cuba. Journey to Florida. My grandparents decided to leave from Cuba on plane once Castro took presidency in Cuba. They knew once he had power in Cuba, he would turn it complete communist. They came to Florida in plane. From Florida to Georgia. Once they first came to Florida, they stayed there a few months. They ended up moving to Georgia for almost a year because of my uncle's job. That's where my aunt got her education. My father was still a baby. He was only 8 months when they first came to Florida. Grandparents. Fernando Rasco, who was born September 14th, 1913. Regina Rasco, who was born October 26, 1919. They were both born in Havana, Cuba. I will be interviewing my aunt, who is my father's sister.
I'm Alexander Rasco. I'm going to interview my aunt, Maria Regina Ramos. Question 1. What city did you live in Cuba?
El Vedado in Havana.
Okay, and how was the environment there?
Wonderful.
In what year did you come from Cuba?
1960
All right. And what city in Florida did you live in?
in Miami.
And you after Miami, you traveled to Georgia?
We traveled to Georgia for about maybe 6 months, 8 months, something like that. Waycross, Georgia.
All right.
The whole family.
And you went to school in Georgia, correct?
I went to school in Waycross, Georgia, to high school, yes.
And how different was the education from Georgia to Florida? Or
It's
Georgia to
practically about
Cuba,
the-
I'm sorry.
Practically about the same, because I went to a private school. They were American nuns. So I didn't have any problems with the language or anything like that. I had problems with their accent.
Okay, and how hard was the struggle when you first came to Florida from Cuba, since you
Well,
guys had a
pretty
trade?
hard because we all came with nothing, just practically the clothes on our back. So it wasn't easy, and it wasn't easy to get a job.
And your parents
we managed
knew.
one way or another.
And
We
your
managed
parents.
little by little.
And your parents knew fluent English when they came
Say it
here.
again?
Excuse me.
What did you say?
I said, and your parents knew fluent English when they first came to Florida, right?
No, not my parents. They knew English, but not fluent English. I did because I learned it since I was 5 years old.
Okay, and you came from Cuba on plane, correct?
Yes, on an airplane, yes.
Okay, and explain to me your grandfather's relation with the government and Batista and everything like that.
Well, actually, not the government. Batista was at one time an assistant to my grandfather, who was in the army, in the El Ejército. And many years after that, Batista, when he was president, then my grandfather was an assistant to him. Not an assistant, but he was working with him until, of course, he left Cuba in 1959. So that was the end of that.
Okay.
My grandfather passed away before he even came here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's all that I have for the interview. And
Yeah.
that's it.
I couldn't even see, as a matter of fact, my grandfather.